legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rate as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
The National Assembly is something that must be gotten right.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
The struggle with ASU strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
A very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us here on Global Television. I'm Uyag Mofwebe, welcoming you very specially to Global Morning. We are in the nation's capital, Abuja. It's a great morning, and as usual, want to quickly wrap our heads around big stories across this country, some of them coming just from around yesterday evening. But Nigeria is changing for whatever reason it is. A lot is happening, certain things are taking shape, expectations are high, some people are disappointed for a truckload of reasons, others are excited and optimistic about the great future for this extremely blessed country. And then there's no doubt that so much of work is on the plates of the president, who we are told in no distant time will send a list of ministerial nominees to the National Assembly. So when we say things are taking shape, that's exactly what it means. But there are big questions still being asked right now as to certain critical areas and what policies will be formulated by the government of the day to ensure that those issues are addressed as quickly as possible. I'm sure it's no longer news that the president has sacked, some people will say, approved the laying off of service chiefs across board, including the police IG. So again, as expected, he has named replacements for all of these gentlemen. So it's not business as usual in the manner of speaking right now. But we are going to look at the papers this morning and try to see how much we can, if you like, beat contexts and perspectives into these stories as they are breaking right now. Some persons have referred to the president as a night walker, some say it's a night owl, because most of the very crucial decisions announced under his leadership always happen at night, and that gets you to wonder what's that kind of, what the implications are for that kind of peculiarity. But then it is what it is. Ultimately, Nigerians want a country that works for them and their children, of course, their children yet unborn. Let's take a look at the papers quickly, everyone. This morning, we're starting with the Daily Sun. The Daily Sun has, as a matter of fact, pictures of certain individuals who have been appointed by the president. The Daily Sun says Hurricane Tinubu sacks names service chiefs, appoints Ribadu NSA, CJ Musa CDS TA Lagbaja, COS EA Ogala CNS, HB Abubakar CAS Kayode Egbetokun, acting IGP Adeni Adewale CG Customs, Hadiza Usman advisor. Okay, so basically these are some of the moves the president has made. Tinubu to attend Global Financing Pact Summits in Paris. That story is on page 28. We understand the president on Thursday, that's 22nd of June, will be in Paris, the capital of France. Some people say the political capital of France. All right, so basically join the conversation around financing for global financing in the area of energy transition and several other critical areas. The conversations will also revolve around the need to allow developing countries or developing economies access into opportunities on a global scale. So the president will be there 22nd and 23rd to join that conversation. That's Thursday and Friday of this week. Okay, still taking a look at the front page of the Daily Sun. Presidential election tribunal hearing, INEC Amazon engineer clash on non-transmission of results. There was no network glitch, says engineer. Network failure responsible, insists Electoral Commission. All right, drug war, 31,675 arrested, 5,147 convicted, 6.3 mkg drug seized in 29 months. That's according to Marwa, the chairman of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA. Okay, NPAN congratulates NGE president, urges him to uphold professionalism and ethics. IBB, Abu Salami, Jonathan Atiku, Obi, others eulogize Dokbasi, the late chairman of the Communications PLC, High Chief Remo Dokbasi. All right, pioneer broadcaster, lead in the private broadcast space in particular. Owners of, Dar Communications, owners of Repa FM and AIT, as we know them. Okay, you find that story on page 6, by the way, if you look at the Daily Sun today. All right, let's take a look at the fruits of the front page of the Daily Sun. It says Abia North Kalu lights up 48 communities. That's on page 26 of the Daily Sun. All right, as we turn away now, let's take a look at the blueprint. The blueprint is loaded with stories, with big headline around the appointment of new service chiefs as well as IGP in acting capacity. All right, so we'll take a look quickly at the nameplate, just below the nameplates of the Blueprint newspaper. Hajj 2023, Nigerian pilgrim dies, 1 amputated, 3 have miscarriage. Quite a pathetic story there, but it's found on page 5 on the Blueprint newspaper. Okay, manufacturers' income tax rises to 18 billion naira in first quarter of 2023. That's according to the NBS, the National Bureau of Statistics. That story is found on page 23. Okay, but the big one on the front page of the Blueprint newspaper says Tinubu elevates Ribadu as NSA, SAC service chiefs IGP, names Musa CDS, Lagwaja COS, Ogala CNS, Abubakar CAS. Betako IGP Adewale Customs Boss dissolves boards of parastatals, jets out to Paris for Global Financial Summit. That story is on page 5. Okay, then you have other headlines on the Blueprint newspaper. When you go below the pictures of the newly appointed gentleman there, you see Katsina government committed to tackling insecurity. That's still talking about the Blueprint newspaper. You find that story on page 5 of the Blueprint newspaper. Then it says costs of shipping oil from Nigeria source on page 23. And then one on page 22, we have invested over $4 billion in Nigeria. That's Airtel. Recall that the chairman of the Airtel Bharti Group had visited President Tinubu yesterday at the Aso Rock Villa, and then he was in the middle of that interaction. He mentioned that his company has invested over $4 billion in Nigeria. That's a whole lot of money. Okay, then it says PPC presiding officers say only presidential election results refused to upload. All right. We were trained that where there is no network, we do offline transmission. Witness, okay, page 6, that's talking about the presidential election petition court now. All right, so let's take a look at Daily Times, everyone. Daily Times on the front page of it says Tinubu sacks service chiefs, appoints new ones, others. There's something about this sacking and the appointment of new ones, amongst which quite a number of things about it. One of them being the fact that most people couldn't predict the president. I mean, his move in the area of whether or not he was going to sack the former service chiefs, how soon he was going to do that, the manner in which he was going to do it. So it was quite an unpredictable move that he made there. But overall, the concern is that they are able to deliver in terms of stabilizing the country, fighting insecurity of any kind, whether it's banditry, insurgency, or even cattle rustling. And now we have kidnapping as well. So these are very serious issues that the country grapples with at this time. And the good thing is the president understood from day one that these are some sort of menace he would have to fight head on if his government wants to make headway in the next 4 years. All right, CJN wants judges flee irresistible gift, bribes, or be disgraced. Will descend with sledgehammer on everyone's, the CJN wants. tax millions of dollars expected as FG issues 90-day ultimatum to ship owners. All right, Tinubu APC lose battle to shut out APM's petition hearing. If you look above the nameplates of the Daily Times newspaper, it reads, Tinubu dissolves boards of parastatals, agencies, institutions, government-owned companies. Tinubu meets Bill Gates, Dangote, on page 5 of the Daily Times newspaper. Then if you look at page 19 of today's issue of Daily Times, it reads, Abbas condemns killing of Fulani leader children in Zaria. All right, quite a sad story there. Okay, so we turn to Daily Independent quickly for you now. All right, when you take a look at the Daily Independent, you realize that above the nameplates you have two headlines. On the left end of the Daily Independent says exchange rate seen closing 2023 at 700 naira to $1. Okay, what's more, Ogun Guba says tribunal strikes out Adebutu's suit against Abiodun. Tinubu names Ribadu NSA, Musa CDS, Lagbaja, Chief of Army Staff. All right, petrol subsidy removal, order stopping NLC TUC from embarking on strike subsists, as according to courts. FG Labour resume talks, raise committee on palliatives, salary adjustments for workers. That's on page 29 of today's Daily Independent. Add debts less than 5% of total value before takeover. That's Arik Air shareholders there speaking on page 7. All right, so let's turn to This Day newspaper. This Day has quite a number of stories as expected this morning. But the big one here again on This Day newspaper is around the sacking of service chiefs and the appointment of new ones. Tinubu sacks all service chiefs, IG, CG, customs, what else? Advisors. Appoints Bala Usman, Musawa, Gumel, Ibrahim, others, SAS, that's special advisors. Dissolves boards of parastatals, agencies, government-owned companies. Above the nameplates, the headline there is, in break from military rule in line with global best practices, its policy-led security parachick. Okay, Ribadu, police intelligence veteran, is now the NSA. That's a radical shift from the norm as we know it within the security architecture. Trust Global Television to bring you all of the analysis in the days ahead along this line as we await the ministerial nominee list of the president to the National Assembly in good enough time. But then we have a few more headlines on the front page of This Day. It says CBN plans small currency measures to stabilize Naira. You'll find details of that story on page 12. At the foot of This Day front cover, FG takes urgent steps to avert oil vessel withdrawal over tax charges, is on page 29. And the Nation newspaper says Tinubu appoints service chiefs, CDS, NSA, IG, CJC on the Nation newspaper. Forex policy will open floodgates of foreign investments. That's a very hopeful story. It's on page 4. All right. Telco's International CEO Dangote OK reforms. Bill Gates meets president. All right. Then at the foot of the paper, you have one here that says Ozekome allowed doctors access to Kanu. Okay. So, and then let's move to the top of it, just above the nameplate. LP, OB, INEC lawyers clash at tribunal. Atiku calls 3 witnesses on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. And then above the nameplate as well, you have a picture of the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Comrade Joe Ajaero. It reads, subsidy palliatives plan ready August, TUC, NLC optimistic. Okay, what more do we have here this morning? It says Naira slumps to 770 Naira to the dollar. The president for global summit in Paris. And then lastly, it reads here, Adebutu's response struck out. Okay, so these are all big stories coming to you from today's Nation newspaper. But then there's one here, the Guardian newspaper. Let's take a look at the Guardian quickly. Applause as Tinubu fires service chiefs, dissolves boards of agencies. LG Labour fix 8 weeks for conclusion of subsidy removal talks. Obviously, that's in August, as it has been said. So hopefully that will help cushion the very adverse impacts of the removal of your subsidy. Tinubu pledges to prioritize Nigeria's well-being. Partners Dangote, Bill Gates. Recall that Bill Gates has been in the country this weekend, met with the president and discussed several issues, including malaria and several other phenomena within the health space with the presidents. Okay. FG, okay, we brought it out already. Road diversion, motorists, commuters decry unending sufferings on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Ethno-religious regional sentiments as Senate picks or 6 principal officers. We saw that coming, so you're going to be hearing things naturally around the so-called juicy committees, juicy appointments, and so on and so forth. But the Senate and indeed the entire National Assembly hopefully remembers that they were voted there by their respective representatives to advance their cause. All right. PPC, Tinubu, APC failed to stop APM's petition. INEC staff recounts Beaver's failure. You find that story on page 3. Okay, on page 3 you find a story. But let's look at the Tribune quickly now. Nigerian Tribune for today. Above the nameplate subsidy, FG Labour set 8-week deadline to agree on intervention measures. Subcommittee to decide on gas conversion, minimum wage, others on page 2 of the Nigerian Tribune. Boards of our status agencies, institutions dissolved on page 3. Only presidential election results could not be uploaded. INEC presiding officers tell court. That's on page 28. OBLP accused INEC of refusing to make documents available. Now, if you care to take a look at the foots of today's Nigerian Tribune newspaper, 3 headlines there. One of them says Nigeria's external reserves down by $438 million as Naira settles at 770 Naira 38 kobo to the dollar, that is. All right. Tinubu meets Bill Gates. Dangote pledges to prioritize health, Nigeria's safety. Data protection law breach, banks, telcos, others to pay huge fine on page 6. All right, so we turn to the Vanguard now. The Vanguard has a picture of President Tinubu shaking hands with the chairman of the Dangote Group, talking about Alhaji Aliko Dangote. And then you have the co-founder of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation there, Bill Gates, as he looks on with a big grin on his face. That's on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper today. And it reads, Tinubu sacks service chiefs, dissolves boards of MDAs. All right. And then right above the nameplate of the Vanguard newspaper, Naira depreciates to 770 Naira 38 kobo as demand pressure hits I&E, that's the importers and exporters window. That story is on page 19. Presidential poll, no technical glitch on February 25, Amazon tells court. Subsidy, Labour FG set 8 weeks deadline to conclude dialogue. All right, so there is that story right there. Okay, but then again at the right end of the Vanguard, you find the headline there that reads, NG President Akpabio Abdulrazak NPAN congratulates AZ Anaba. Kebbi government moves to reopen FGC 2 years after bandits attacks. Nigeria spends over $500 million on importation of dairy products yearly. Basaki is the one to whom that assertion is credited. That's on page 12 of the Vanguard newspaper. All right. Let's see a few more headlines on the foot of the Vanguard newspaper. NNPC committed to FG's 2060 net zero plans. Kyari tells U.S. President Ware hails Osime's marksmanship. All right, that's also a story on today's Vanguard newspaper. Okay, Dakoku Peter side That's a column there. You find it on page 16. Okay, that's it for today's Vanguard newspaper. Lastly, let's look at this day, rather Business Day newspaper. Let's follow the money beats this morning, shall we? Big story on the front of Business Day says Disco's plan to buy power from Genco's hits hurdles. A new market phase may mean better supply, increased tariff. Analysts expect FX liquidity as CBN lifts dorm account curbs. Tax on diesel imports seen piling pressure on firms. All right, Mafab missing as Airtel heats up competition in 5G market. Tinubu retires service chiefs names replacements. These are all big stories from today's Business Day newspaper. As always, we urge you to take a look at these papers for yourself and find details. That way, you're able to stay on top of your game as you make progress into a very, very promising day. Global Morning here with me continues here on Global Television, live in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Do stay with us.
Welcome to the AM News.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature